Brad from Endless here. This is the next video in our series about the Twister XT. We're going to be comparing the liner for the Twister XT versus the older liner from the Twister Edge. Now, one thing I didn't mention in my previous video was the skates that I have. I have a brand new 2022 Twister XT, and then I had an older, I'd say 2019/2020 Twister Edge. So yeah, let's take a look at these liners. They have made some changes, and I think the new liner is a vast improvement over the old one. Let's look at the old Twister Edge liner first. Move this out of the way here. So they have, let's talk about the materials here and kind of look at this. Give you a good look here. So they have kind of this, like, I would say it's kind of a non-stick, like a, or kind of, it's like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a high friction material for the base with a couple ventilation holes. This portion of the liner feels kind of harder and more rigid, whereas this kind of midfoot area, this is really like soft, puffy foam. And then the toe, I know this kind of looks like neoprene, but it's not exactly stretchy like you see on some other liners. You may also notice there's no lace holes in this Twister Edge liner. So it pretty much was, you know, with the Twister Edge, you just laced up in the midfoot, up through the midfoot of the boot, the shell, and then you would use the buckle to kind of like hold things around the cuff in your ankle. I have to say this is, you know, it was a pretty comfy liner. This is what it doesn't say it on this one, but this was what they call their premium liner. The inside, they kind of have this, like, I don't even know what you'd call it. It's kind of like a fine, like a really fine fabric. It's not like microfiber. Maybe it is. Anyway, let's take a look at the insole that they use here. There's nothing to write home about on this insole. It's fine. I mean, it's probably about 3 millimeters thick. It has very, very minor arch support in the middle. I felt like, yeah, when I would skate this boot, it didn't feel like it had a ton of arch support from that stock insole. Kind of see the inside there and the construction. It's got this piece of elastic to kind of hold this in place. They had with the tongue, it kind of, I would say the tongue is rigid. It's got like this V form to it. It doesn't, it's like a more dense padding than it is in this area. Like this is a very soft, squishy foam. It doesn't, there's not much structure up here. The tongue, however, and like up here in the cuff and throughout the heel, have a little more density to it. But one problem was because there was no, you know, there's no lace loop here in the tongue, there's no eyelets, the tongue did kind of get twisted, and you can kind of see how over time my tongue is kind of moved into this position based on the anatomy of my foot. So yeah, it was fine for a stock liner. Let's switch gears here and talk about the new XT liner. So again, if we compare here, I'm gonna move this guy out of the way. You can see the material that they're using on the base of the liner. It's the same. It's the same kind of like higher friction material. It's kind of nice. And I think they glue this around the edges. However, all this material is different now. So Twister Edge, Twister XT, this is now a lot more rigid. And it's very, I would call this a dense foam, and it's quite thin. It's significantly less volume than this, even though this is rather squishy. Yeah, I'm actually impressed at how thin this is right there. It looks like I don't know if you can see this in the camera, but I can see all these little holes, like a pattern of little ventilation holes. Let me see if I can Yeah, it's very breathable. It's kind of like that, almost like that jersey material in the inside, you know, where you've got like a bunch of little perforations. So I think they did that for breathability, which is really nice. They've got this ginormous, you know, there's the comparison of the two Velcro or elastic straps. Like, this is really nice. And as you can see, the quality of the stitching looks, I think the stitching quality on both these liners is really good. I think Rollerblade does a really good job with the quality of their construction and the quality of the stitching. I can't say I've ever had Rollerblade liners fall apart on me. You know, they tend to last a long time. So yeah, this is all real nice. The toe here is a big, this is probably one of the big changes. You can see they've given that a totally different, let's see if I can put those. So the Twister XT on the left has more of a, you know, flat front, and then it kind of curves over, whereas this one's a little more pointier, I would say. So this extra stitching kind of gives you a little more room for your toe and your toenail. It's not going to press as much. But most importantly, if I can show this is a nice stretchy neoprene material. It's got some firmness to it, but it does give. And that, I wish I could, I'll have to maybe take a picture and post it, but this liner is actually slightly shorter than my foot. So my toe, when my toe is in here, it really just like pokes out, you know, it's really pushing against this. And that kind of fit feels great to me. So I think they really did a nice job here in the front of this liner. Another big change that they made is the tongue has been totally redesigned. You can see they've added this plastic stiffener piece. Let's compare the old and the new. This is huge. I mean, let's see how far this, oh yeah, it extends pretty far, kind of, let's say about a third of the way underneath this elastic. It gives the tongue some form in both the kind of like the shape, you know, kind of forms the tongue, and also maintains the form of the tongue this way. You can see how this is more of a rounded profile, whereas before they just kind of bent it like as a V. The material of the tongue seems to have changed a little bit. Like the foam feels a little plusher. It's similar, but this feels nicer to me. And then I feel like for the upper part here in the cuff area, they've got this same kind of like, it's very sheer microfiber type of material. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a Lycra. That's what I'm looking for. It's Lycra. So it's like a Lycra material. I'd say it's probably similar construction in this part. They do a good job of putting in like some heel lock features kind of down in there. It's kind of, I don't know if you can see this. There's kind of like, it kind of gets puffy around the side of your Achilles. So it does feel really nice in the heel. You get decent heel lock. The best part though of this liner is they finally added some eyelets for lacing through the liner. So, you know, as I discussed before, you would just kind of lace the shell and the liner would just do its own thing. But now you can finally lace through the shell and into these top two eyelets here. And so that allows you to get this much more snug at the top of your foot, which is great. Let's take out this insole. They did go with a better insole. I think this one's much higher quality. So let's look at this thing. So this guy has a much more defined arch support. So look at the base. It's got multiple materials. Like now there's like this rigid material giving it all the structure. Let's contrast that with what we had before. Twister Edge, Twister XT. Like this is actually really impressive for a stock insole. This foam just feels, let's say it's a similar thickness in the forefoot, maybe a hair thinner, but this feels really nice, like it's a high density foam. And like I said, all this is a very rigid material. I don't know what that is, some type of plastic or fiberglass-like material. It seems to have some type of fibers running through it. This is right here in the center of the heel is the same foam as you have in the forefoot. So good job, Rollerblade. This is actually really, really nice. And I felt when I was skating this that this did give my foot a lot better support in my arch. I would say I have normal arches. They're not high, but I don't have a flat foot. So yeah, between these two liners, the new premium liner used in the XT is a huge improvement. Just real fast, let's just let's compare the height of these things. Move these guys out of the way. So let's see if I can get this. So you can see my old liner was a little taller, like less of a V cut. You know, I'm going to attribute some of that to being in the smaller shell, but I kind of wonder if they just decreased the height of the liner and gave it a deeper V cut for more ankle, like front back ankle mobility. That's something I need to confirm with Rollerblade. But I definitely noticed that when skating, that it felt like the liner wasn't as tall as it was before. And again, some of that's due to just being a smaller size, and some of it's due to maybe the change in the shape of the back of the liner. Okay, let's weigh these liners. Let's do the twister edge first. We've got 266 grams on that one. I've got the insoles back on these, by the way. And the Twister XT is 256. So the old one was 266 and 256.58. So about 10 grams different. Not too much. I would say that, you know, given that this is a size smaller than the old liner I had, I think actually if I had the same size liner, we would probably find that the new liner is slightly heavier. And I think that's going to be due to this plastic piece here in the eyelets, which are metal. So they're probably comparable weights, but I would say that, you know, any weight we've given up for these new features is well worth it.